Okay, in part A, here are the walking rates that Gilberto, Alana, and Leanne found in their experiment. Alana had 1 meter per second, Gilberto was 2 meters per second, and Leanne was 2.5 meters per second. Make a table showing the distance walked by each student in the first 10 seconds. So we've already made the table, you just need to fill it in. So, for example, for Alana here, remember, in 0 seconds, she hasn't walked any distance at all. So she's got 0 distance in 0 seconds. And then Gilberto has done the same amount of walking in 0 seconds because you can't move anywhere in 0 seconds. And then the same will be true of Leanne. So they all have the same starting point of 0 meters, right? It's like if they all started at the same place. In 1 second, though, it changes. So Alana will walk 1 meter in that second, but Gilberto will have walked 2, and Leanne will have walked 2.5. And then just to give us one more row, and then I'm going to let you guys go with it. Alana will have walked another meter, so that means 1 meter plus another meter, so we've got 2 meters. Gilberto will have walked 2 meters times 2 seconds, so that will be 4. And Leanne will have walked 2.5 times 2, which is 5. So we're adding on that same walking rate for every second, and you're going to fill in that table. One thing I want to show you right now in Kami is you can pull up a 2-page view, because on the next page, you're going to be graphing this. So you can notice here, I don't have my table next to my graph. So in order to make that happen, I'm going to click on the show cover page. And what that does is just make it so that my view is now really easy to see both my table and my graph, so that when you are graphing it, you're going to be able to see your table right here. So if you want to use that tool, it's up to you. I just thought I would point that out. And number 2, you're going to have to graph the times and distances. My recommendation is to graph, you've got your distance on this axis. My recommendation is to graph by 3s. You can choose to go by a different number, but that's just my recommendation. I would go by 3s for the distance. Remember, you start at 0, and then for time, I would just go by 1 second, because in your chart there, you've already got everything aligned for 1 second. You're going to answer questions about how does the walking rate affect the graph. And then one thing to note is it's a really good idea to use a different color for each student. So I already started using different colors on my table. I had pink for Alana, blue for Gilberto, and orange for Leanne. You could choose your colors, but make sure that you are using 3 different colors or shapes to plot the points to see your graph. And then on page 3, in part A, you need to write an equation that gives a relationship between the time t and the distance walked. Remember that this unit rate, your walking rate, should be involved. So for Alana, we should have the distance equals 1 times t. Remember, you can put the multiplication symbol in between there or not. When you have a number and a letter next to each other, that automatically means multiplication. And then you're going to answer some questions about how was the walking rate represented in the equations. So in other words, where did you see that walking rate? How could you see in the graph that there might be, with any clues that the graph would be a straight line from the table and from the equation? So how could you tell it's a straight line, not from the graph, but from the table and the equation? And then finally, is it a proportional relationship? And that means, did it go through the point 0, 0 on the graph? Did it always start 0 seconds, 0 meters? If it did, it is proportional. And then you're going to answer, what was that constant of proportionality? And there should be 3 different ones, and you should be able to pull them from your number 3. There should be 3 different ones. Hint, hint, hint. These will be involved. All right, see you in part B.